It's much too soon for another crappy video on this channel. Hello, barbecue enthusiasts. It is Friday, April 2nd, 2021. And what you are looking at here is a Horizon Smokers Marshal. I forget exactly what their nomenclature is, but if you're curious, you can go to horizonsmokers.com and look it up there. This is their largest backyard. Well, it's not their largest. I think they actually have a 36-inch. But this is the 30-inch diameter cook chamber. So the reason for this video is I recently got a comment from a viewer who apparently has this pit and is having some airflow and or fire management issues. I don't think I've ever done a fire management video on this pit. I didn't really think it was necessary. This pit is fairly easy to run, but since I'm going to be firing it up, I thought I'd try to make a short video kind of showing what I do. Hopefully it's useful to anybody who's interested. I'm not actually cooking until tomorrow. I've got this thing set up, so all I have to do is fire it up in the morning. It's going to be an all-day cook, so everything's going to start probably before sunrise or even starts getting light out. So I thought I'd do a little filming tonight, try to get this in so that we still have some daylight. I've already got the some charcoal down there. I like to set up some lump charcoal with the sticks on top of it. I always start with 4. 4 seems to work pretty good on all of my pits. It gets the pits up to temperature fairly quickly. I'm going to be using tomorrow morning, just for the sake of expediency, the old Texas match. You can use whatever you like. You can fill a charcoal, or a chimney full of charcoal rather. Get back in there. Okay, just leave it there. A couple of those, and or you can start a fire the old-fashioned way. Just put a little bit of kindling in there and build your fire on top of it and everything else. Again, I'm using the weed burner just to get things going a little quicker. As an aside, not really anything to do with fire management, I don't wait until my pit stabilizes in temperature. This particular one is large enough it'd take probably an hour and a half to 2 hours before it totally stabilized. And I'm comfortable enough knowing how it comes up to temperature to go ahead and put product on after we start getting a clean fire burning down here once it's gotten going. And we're at a food safe temperature in the cook chamber, about 200 degrees. So and then I just let it continue to come up to temperature after that and stabilize with product in the pit. So one of the biggest factors in your fire management is going to be what kind of wood you're using. The species, how well cured it is, the size of the splits and that sort of thing. I think it's pretty universal to use beer can size splits. Obviously you're not going to get them all uniform. Some of these are larger than others here. And then sometimes I'll use 2 splits if they're larger splits. Sometimes I'll use 3 if they're smaller splits. It all just kind of depends, and it's something you just kind of get used to once you've gotten some experience with your pit. You know how best to build your fires. So, but we're just going to cover the basics here. So back at the pit, when I fire this up in the morning, I am going to close the door. Some people I'm sure would probably leave the door open, and that's fine. I do leave the door cracked when I'm trying to get things going very early on, but I find that the fire doesn't burn as intensely if you leave this open. You're just getting a lot of air around this, and it seems when you close this, it directs the air more at the fire. It kind of intensifies things a little bit. So, and then the vent on the other end of the pit is going to be wide open. I've got it closed right now. We have some cloud cover. It's not supposed to precipitate tonight, but if I leave that open, it certainly will. Other factors affecting your fire are going to be ambient temperature. Humidity is probably going to play a role if you have a lot of that somewhere. Elevation, we're at 8,500 feet here. So a lot of things are going to affect it. This isn't a one-size-fits-all deal, but I hope by the end of this you're going to have a pretty good idea how this works. So again, easy to operate pit. This one is one of my easiest. So I think I've pretty much covered everything here until we start cooking. We'll see you tomorrow. Time to make the donuts. Okay, so that whole process probably took about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. Most of these pits you can get with an optional log lighter. I opted not to get one just because it adds to the complexity of the pit, and I have a weed burner already anyway because I use it for other stuff. So anyway, this I'm going to close everything up here so it starts drawing through the pit, and we're going to be ready to go here in less than an hour probably. Again, I don't remember what I said yesterday because I kept getting interrupted and everything else, so if I'm repeating myself I apologize, but I don't let the pit stabilize. I just start throwing product on as it's coming up to temperature. I'm familiar enough with how the pit comes up to temperature that I'm comfortable doing that. So entirely up to you. Best practice, maybe not, but it certainly works for me. Just a few moments later, damper's wide open, everything closed up, vent on the other end wide open, and we'll be back shortly. Well, it's about 40 minutes later. Smoke is cleaning up, temperature is coming up in the pit. Let's have a look at our firebox here and assess the situation. Our splits are burning down nicely. And it is about time to stoke this thing. Given the temperature of both the ambient temperature and the temperature of the pit, I'm going to go ahead and throw 3 sticks on. And we're going to be ready to put the product on the pit here shortly, probably about 10 minutes. I'm going to let this start burning clean, and on it goes. The ambient temperature, or outside air temperature, if I didn't mention it, is 36 degrees right now. Okay, we're just a few minutes later, and as you can see, well, probably difficult to see in this light, but smoke has cleared up. We've got virtually no smoke visible, in fact. Far end of the pit is up to temperature. This end of the pit is still a little cool. I've still got the dampers wide open over here. I'm going to put the product on. I'm going to close those dampers down to roughly halfway, and they're going to get a little bit of adjustment to fine-tune it as we go along. But with all the air moving through the pit, this is quite normal, and this will stabilize. These will start to match up here. Once I close those dampers, this end of the pit is going to heat up a little bit. I think what happens is all the air moving through the pit kind of packs up against the chimney there and warms that end of the pit first, but it will stabilize. So I'm going to get some product on, and we'll come back to this when we get a little daylight out here. Okay, it is almost exactly 4 hours from the time I fired up the pit this morning, and a little over 3 hours from the time the product went on. First round of product. I just came in from seasoning some ribs that are going to go on right now. I probably waited just a skosh too long to stoke the fire on this, something you don't want to do. This unique to this pit is it's A, rather large, and B, it's fabricated from 3/8 inch steel. So once you have a trend going, it's difficult to arrest and reverse. Well, let's get this fire stoked. Let's see what we have going on here. Yeah, we're pretty well burned down on the splits I put in there. Now you can see there's one good sized split that didn't fully burn. I'm going to move that up to the front here. And that's something you're going to want to do on this pit, and I do on any of my other pits. If I let the coal bed die down a little too much, I try to get the coals up towards the front of the pit, so that when I put the splits in, they're getting heated from this end back rather than trying to burn them this direction. It just doesn't work, and they're going to smolder and everything. So because there's still a pretty good size or pretty good amount of wood left in this piece of charcoal right here, I'm only going to put 2 splits on right now, and I'm just going to close this up about to there for now, let that take off real good, and while that's happening, I'm going to spritz the product that's in the pit and put the ribs on. Okay, so the elapsed time now is just enough time to put the ribs on and then run inside and wash my hands so I don't get goop all over the camera when I'm handling it. But I've left the door cracked that long, and as you can see, those splits are getting pretty well consumed. So we can go ahead and close that back up again. I've got the dampers just about a third to halfway open right now. That seems to be working out fairly well temperature-wise. It's been just a skosh cool in there. I might bump those open just a tad more. Now, one other thing that you're going to want to consider is wind direction. And on a pit like this, there's probably not a heck of a lot you're going to be able to do if you have some adverse conditions, because the size and the weight of the pit, you're not going to be able to easily jockey it around. We're in kind of a protected location here, so we don't get a whole lot of wind, and it just happens to be facing in a direction out of the predominant winds, but because of all the mechanical turbulence with everything around here, any winds we do get down in here are pretty fluky anyway. So, but when positioning your pit, it's something you might want to take into consideration wherever you're setting it up, is whether you might have a fence or something that can block the winds, prevent any, what you're trying to avoid is wind coming from the chimney end to the firebox end. Vice versa, no problem. It's only going to keep air moving through the cooker, but you might get some blowback otherwise. So just something to keep in mind when you're positioning your pit. Now, all that having been said, we'll go through a couple more cycles of this. I've got briskets in there right now. In the ribs, of course, I've got some chicken that's going to go on in a little while. So we're going to be at this for another 7 hours. So we'll film a few more cycles of this, but this is all we're going to do all day today. Burn them down, load it up, burn them down, load it up. Okay, so time-wise, we're about 40 minutes later, and we're about on schedule to restoke the fire, though I did kind of neglect the pit preparing the chicken breasts over here. I should have been a little more diligent, so we've let the temperature drop on the thing a little bit again. Let's see what we have going on in there. Here. Probably burned down, or the splits are elevated a little bit. If you'll recall, I put this one up front here, and they kept the rest of the splits out of the coal bed. Not a big deal. I'm just going to shake this up here a little bit, get that broken up. And because they've pretty much gone to charcoal on the bottom, but still a little bit of wood on top, I'm going to give them a flip, and I'm going to throw 2 splits in like that, and we're going to get going again. As I indicated before, the big danger here, well, it's not really a danger. I mean, you really can't screw up that badly. So, but what you want to avoid is establishing a trend on a pit this large and this heavy, because again, it's going to be harder to arrest and reverse that trend. So if I had a trend going, I would much rather it was a cooling trend than a heating trend. If you do overbuild your fire, and that's what the temptation here is to do, it's going to take about 2 cycles of restoking the fire here to get the pit back up to where I want it. I don't want to overshoot that temperature. I just want to bring it back up to where I want it. The temptation is to throw a bunch of wood in there and really get that thing going, and then you will overshoot. If you do accidentally do that, you can lift the lid on the firebox here, prop it open with a split or something like that, spill some of that heat, and you can even open up the cook chamber door if you really have a severe incident. But once you overshoot, it takes a long time for this to come back down to temperature. So again, better to gradually bring it up than to overshoot and then have to take it back down again. So, and you kind of get into that cycle. So anyway, I'm going to get these chicken breasts on, leave that door cracked about there while that gets going, which is going nicely already, and we'll be back a little later. Okay, just a quick follow-up here. Got the chicken on, washed my hands again, and we're back at our splits. They're consumed. Everything is burning nice and cleanly. So we're just going to button this up and again do that over and over again today. I'll film a couple more as the day goes on just for the fun of it, but I think you're getting the idea. I can't think of anything else to add really. Okay, so it's about that time again. Let's see what we have here. Yep, I could have gotten to it a little sooner, it looks like, but I didn't, so this is what we have. But we're good. It's all good. That's a pretty small split. That one's none too big either, so I'm going to go 3 this go around. Anyway, you get the idea here. Again, nothing particularly unusual about this pit other than its size and the thickness of the material that was used to build it, giving it a little more mass. So once again, just don't let it get too cool on you, and don't let it overheat on you, and you'll be okay. And even if that happens, it's not the end of the world. What do we have going here today? Well, we got a chicken over here, got 3 big breasts up here, and 3 more big ones hiding back there in the back. 3 briskets. My wife's church is not having an Easter service that would violate public health policy. And after that, they're not having a potluck that would violate public health policy. So my wife asked me if I'd smoke a brisket for the potluck that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Briskets are going to get wrapped here pretty quick. Getting some good color on them, looking real nice. Ribs are coming along. The rest of this is for us, and we're going to gift some of it. So, yeah, looking good. Yum, barbecue tonight. Okay, so I think that about covers it. I hope I haven't forgotten anything. If anybody has any questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer them, but happy Easter and have a dandy day.